have material. We all have material.
To read.
We all have newspapers everywhere.
So we have no excuse.
And we have on our phones, we have text, we have Igihe, the New Times, other newspapers. And I think it's a matter of choice. Now, how many read? And read correctly, because it's not just taking the newspaper and
flipping through it.
And just watching the images, but read and understand.
Very few of us do that.
Understand.
All right. Dominique, do you agree on that?
I think I completely agree with him. Based on the situation in Rwanda, I think I would also blame
What situation in Rwanda?
The situation in Rwanda is we almost ostracize knowledge.
In simple English, what does that mean?
We almost shun knowledge. It's if you're reading, you're over there, we don't want to relate to you. Basically, in schools, in society, our library, I think, I'm very sorry to say, but 80% of the people, that's a very informal research, but the majority of the people who attend the library are really there for the Wi-Fi rather than the books. The books are filled with dust and not and leave untouched. So
is that a fact?
That I'm one of the people who watch I've lived behind the library since I am, I think, 8 years old, and ever since the foundation was laid, I watched it. So I was one of the people who were very excited, kind of trespassed and went in before it was done, before it was launched. So the expectation I had when I walked in was completely different. So I kept coming. I think I backed from attending a library, and I started coming with a critical and cynical mind and watching how many people are holding books. So it's very sad to say, but it's the truth. Most people at the library are found holding phones rather than books.
Let's talk to Orhan here, who said that she's going to be taking any information that comes towards the library. She literally sneaked when the foundation was still being laid, and now she is watching dust pile on top of those books, and people just go for Wi-Fi. How true is this?
I will not say that people only go for Wi-Fi. We do have a large population of people who attend the library who actually, who are there to use the internet connection, but then we don't control what they are doing on there. Maybe they are reading with those devices that they bring in. But I will have to kind of agree with Dominique, because when we look at the proportion of people who visit the library every day, I think by month we have like almost 10,000 people who come into the library. But if you look at the number of books that have been checked out, it's quite a big difference.
So in your own research, what does that tell you in this whole conversation of the reading?
Well, it tells us that the people who attend the library don't necessarily go for the traditional reading style that we all know, that we all learned to love. That's why we're all sitting here. The written material, they probably go on to do some reading online. Some of them actually also use the library because you have a lot of notebooks and scientific and IT that they only use for the moment, for the research that they're doing at the moment. But reading as leisure, as that moment that we all take this book and then we take home for our own specific pleasure.
That is not happening.
It's not happening as much as it would happen for reading for other purposes, I would say. Yeah.
For you, when you listen to this with your coffee to entice someone to come and give them that environment, does it make you feel like changing your business plan? Because she says that people are going there just for Wi-Fi. So could people just be coming for your coffee and they're not reading?
No. They're coming for both. They're coming for the environment and also reading. I agree that the reading culture is low, but it's not that low. There are some people who actually read.
So we are exaggerating this issue.
We're exaggerating in a way because we're trying to compare it with the traditional reading. Like
is that wrong?
Saying. I think it's wrong because times are evolving, and as much as the reading culture is not growing that much compared to, let's say, East African countries. You mentioned newspapers. If you look in Uganda or Kenya, everyone is reading a newspaper. Here it's different, but if you look at the people who comment on newspapers, on Igihe, Umuseke, there are very many. They just read in different ways. But also, if they can find something that they can relate to, I think that would also be easy.
So what we are writing is not what people are really relating to, so it doesn't interest them to read. Is this part of the problem?
Can I?
Yes, of course.
Yes, you
what
can.
she said.
Yes.
She talked about the library.
Yes.
Go to the library and observe.
Yes.
Who is in the library? Who is in the library? Most of the time, student.
Yes.
Why? Why? Because
They're doing
they are
research.
for the dissertation, master's degree, or bachelor degrees.
Yeah.
And because of that. But when they finish the bachelor degrees or master's degree, how many times they go back to the library? I'm provocative. I'm trying to be provocative.
Break
But
the
you know
ice,
who else
doctor,
is in the
break the
library?
ice, yes.
Children.
Sorry?
We have a lot of children in the library.
Yes,
we
I
have
agree.
200 kids.
Because there's a
Absolutely.
push, there's
Yes.
something that is making them go there.
And what are they doing?
I agree.
Yes.
The children, again, look at them and who are those children?
Okay.
They are children, most of the time, they finish their school at any schools here in Kigali. And sometimes, and I think most of them, because the parents are not at home to take care of them.
Yeah.
And I absolutely agree with them. And better to go into the library,
Where you can have even
Exactly.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
spend the time reading. Yes. But so we have also to know who is going, who is not going, and maybe why. Because
Yeah.
we are
Before you
here, I think,
continue,
to
yes.
encourage people to read,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because he raises a key thing that if a majority of people who go to the library are these students who are
Yes.
researching, and after they've finished, nobody goes back there, then what does that tell us? And what do we do then to ensure that these people keep coming there because they need to nurture, their knowledge and fertilize their minds with more information that these libraries offer?
But how do we know they're not doing that even outside of the
So
library?
how do we know
If
that
I
they're
can
doing
say
it?
something,
How do we know
yes.
they're doing it? Before
If
you
I-
come in, Dominic, yes.
What I can say, for example, in terms of the Kigali Public Library alone, when we look at our percentage of members, we actually have more adults who are not students, who are not teenagers, who are not kids, as members. So they do come, and they're probably the ones who borrow the most of the books that we have that are kind of checked out. But the proportion again is quite different. So what we are doing to ensure that nurture that reading culture, we invite children in to make sure that the complaints that we have now will not follow our society into the future.
So you're sort of saying that you adults, you're a hard nut to crack. Let's now deal with the new generation that we will build.
That's
and
what we
ensure
are
they're
starting with.
reading.
That's who we are starting with now. We have been running the library since July. We've only been there for do the math. So our first target, obviously, we are going for the children, and that's how we have